Well, hello everyone, and welcome out to your midweek live. This is Ankit here, and I'll be going through the markets today. Quite a busy day in the market, so definitely there's a lot to talk about. And as you know, as we go through the class, if you have any questions, anything that you're looking at, just go ahead and type in the chat box, and we'll take a look at those things as we go.
Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available, and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader?
All right, let's begin. Again, we'll be taking a look at broader market analysis today, see what's really going on in the news events, take a look at currency baskets, and then we'll talk about some possible setups. So let's get into it. So again, looking at the market analysis today, I mean, if you take a look at the percentage change today, I mean, you'd be like, hey, not a whole lot happening, or even for the week. But it's been a pretty busy week so far. So nothing really has changed from the market front. This is what we call markets are like melting up. So we just continue to see new highs, and not a whole lot there happening in the equity market world. Now, outside of that, in the currency market world, there's definitely a lot more happening. Couple of news, or I think it was about 3 news that we had this week. First, we talked about the elections out of Japan that happened and caused some move in the yen. Last night, I think Japanese Prime Minister resigned, caused a move in the Japanese yen. And then we also had a couple more news. We had first, we got the news last night that the US-Japan has reached a trade deal. Now, again, as we are approaching that August 1st deadline, we are starting to get some positive outcomes, and markets are definitely cheering on that news. So we had that news yesterday, and Japanese market actually jumped up like 5.5%. So huge move overseas. And then just as just this afternoon, as I was putting this class together, we got the news that US and EU are close on 15% tariff deal. Now, that also caused a big, nice move in the markets, and also a lot of move in the bond market and also in the euro. So we'll take a look at those things and see what kind of impact does it have. And of course, we have a lot of headlines, but what kind of headlines is really a market moving sort of a news, and what will really have a bigger impact on making a change. So that's where we have to kind of take a look at the velocity scores. Now, this is the percentage change we have so far for this week. And you'll see like, okay, this bunch over here, it seems like it's not a lot happening, but I think that's where there's definitely more intraday movement that's happening, especially in the last 24 hours where, with that positive news about that trade deal, we had Aussie and Kiwi were outperforming overnight. We also had a lot of back and forth movement in the euro and the Swiss franc and the pound. So this is, again, like I said, it's a week where when you look at this and say, well, seems like nothing happening in the markets, but it's definitely a lot happening in the markets. The biggest surprise that we had, or personally that I had this week, was the US dollar. We talk about how US dollar kind of gone out of that downtrend. Dollar is actually performing really poorly this week. So we'll talk about dollar here and see, okay, what's the outlook here going forward? But yeah, dollar is the one that really surprised me. And here we are with the Japanese yen being, again, I expected volatility out of Japan, but then I didn't expect that trade deal to come through. So there's definitely more information there. So we have to see if the yen, if all this news is behind the yen, and is the yen going to resume its downtrend, or is the yen is going to have a bit of an uptrend? We'll take a look at those as we go. Now, in the broader markets, you can see S&P up, World Stock Index is up, gold is up. I think gold sort of pulled back or paired some gains after that. The trade deal with the EU that came through, we saw some big move there as well. Oil market's down, and even crypto is actually down as well. So remember, crypto has been running a lot in the last few weeks. So whenever you have these overextended runs, you do expect some pullbacks, and that's what we're getting in the crypto world. Now, if you kind of dive in to see where's the biggest losses in the crypto, it's really the Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin overall is kind of holding steady, but remember, Ethereum is the one that's been melting up. So that's whenever you get that melting up price action, that usually ends with some bigger correction. That's what we're getting in the Ethereum and the Bitcoin Cash. So when we take a look at a market outlook, this is where we got a lot of news. When we start to digest the news, when the market started to digest the news, the question really is that, now, is that the news behind us, or are we going to see a change in that direction? So when I take a look at the broader market as well, again, nothing has changed. You can see that volatility is low. I think we hit like 6-month low volatility in the broader markets. So this is, again, not a whole lot intraday, but it's slowly kind of melting up. Not a whole lot of change there. Market outlook stays the same as a +3. But now this is where in currency market, I think they're kind of doing its own thing. And that's really where we have to pay more close attention to what's happening in the currencies and where the relative strength or weakness is. As far as the news goes, again, we only had CPI out of Kiwi. As you can see that did, I think if you look at the price action on Sunday night when this news came out, Kiwi did drop. Overall, didn't really have a big impact on the Kiwi. We had the elections out of Japan over the weekend, and we talked about the outcome there. Not a whole lot has happened since then, but I mean, we have the next 24 hours is definitely more important. As you can see, we have the manufacturing PMI numbers coming out of Eurozone. We're looking at pound and also the US. And in between there, take a look at this ECB rate statement as well. So they're expecting to have no rate change. And again, that's where markets are already pricing in that. Not a whole lot of change to be had over there. But the only change that we're going to see, or if there's a change, is what they say in their monetary policy statement. So if you're trading the euro, I think this is one that you're going to pay attention to tomorrow. So let's not waste any time and jump right into the markets. This is where the velocity is right now. As you can see, velocity has been in the Kiwi and the Aussie, but things have kind of definitely shifted intraday. So let's just jump in and then take a look at some possible trades ahead.
Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available, and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader?
All right, so here we are in the market. So let's just start taking a look at things from a broader perspective. So first thing first, I want to talk about what happened with euro. Since the news came out, you can see that euro actually, today has been a pretty bizarre day. You get that. It has a pretty consistent move down here, and we got a bit of a consistent move up here. So this is where the news that came out, and you can see that euro has strengthened since then. We also saw a nice little jump in the or sell off in the bond market. So the bond yields kind of went up as well in the euro. So I think overall right now, as I take a look at the euro direction, we have a pretty big candle today, but where we are right now is pretty much indecisive here. So what do we take from this euro here? Well, I'm not really wanting to buy unless it really breaks above that previous high. Not really wanting to sell unless it really breaks below that. So I think as long as it's stuck in that range, we'll probably see more sideways price action. We're seeing a very similar thing in the euro Swiss franc as well. But take a look at Swiss franc. It is rejecting that level here. Swiss franc has been in one of the strongest trends in the last couple of months. Take a look at June, and July. Is this uptrend coming to an end? Well, for that, we need to see a lower high, lower low with a lower high. It hasn't really broken that trend line there yet. So not really looking to pull the trigger on this one as well. This is probably still sideways. So the real movement has been in the dollar. So let's take a look at the dollar. And this is why dollar I'm kind of surprised by, because remember we talked about the way dollar has been moving in the past 2-3 weeks. It finally got out of the downtrend. I mean, we were below the 20 to 50-day moving average for the most part. As you can see that right here, we actually broke above it. But the last 4 days have been horrible. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, where are we pausing? I mean, we're pausing right at the support level here. So next level support is right here. And here's the resistance. I mean, at this point, I don't have a strong call. I definitely pared back on my bullishness in the dollar. I think this correction was way too deeper. I mean, we broke below the 20 and the 50 moving average here. So, I mean, we are just hanging off that little range bound price action here. I think this has probably gone a little bit more range bound here. So dollar, that's really the big change that we have made for the dollar. Outside of that, the Japanese yen, that's where I got a lot more questions, with all this volatility. Let's take a look at the hourly chart, and you'll see, there has been a lot of movement, so far, with both on the upside and the downside, and here we are with the up move. Just keep in mind is where we are in that trend. The trend remains in a downtrend. We're still below the 20, the 50. It rejected this level, and it's still staying below that 20-day moving average. So as long as it stays below that level, the average here, again, my outlook remains bearish on this yen here. Now, in the shorter term, are we consolidating? Well, as you can see that in the shorter term, we have some bigger range to deal with. So if I really want to short this, I need to see this break below the support level. Otherwise, I think it can go sideways for a little bit as well. So when we look at these charts and say, well, yeah, there's a lot of currencies that we're kind of putting on the shelf. See what else is where we can find an opportunity. This one, again, the British pound is the one that I really liked. And you can see that the last 4 or 5 days price action is horrible. Now, this thing is also staying below that 20 to 50 moving average. But if you look at the momentum, I mean, this is sideways price action here. So not really wanting to jump on this British pound here either, because, again, the last 24 hours have been a lot of back and forth moves. So on a daily chart, nothing really has changed unless we really break below the support. That's really what I would be interested in. So pound goes on the shelf there as well. Let's see what else we can find. CAD is the one. As you can see that the CAD it's having a bit of a rough day today. And you can see that just a straight sell-off in this price action here. Now, that's just an intraday movement. In a broader scheme of things, you can see that the CAD is not really in a strong, either in a downtrend or an uptrend. This is a sideways trend here. So this is where, if I want to play the CAD, I'm playing on a day-to-day basis. I'm not looking to jump in on a daily chart and trying to capture a big move, because that's really not where the movement is. Now, let's leave us with the Aussie and the Kiwi. So is anything changed with the Aussie and Kiwi? Well, first thing first, is the Aussie better or is the Kiwi better? You can see that this thing looks interesting here to me, because it did break above that resistance, which became the new support area. And you can see that kind of held in right there. Getting a nice little bullish candle today. But the big question is it going to have any follow through? So for this, it needs to break either above or lower to really confirm where the trend is. So Aussie seems to be kind of in the middle there as well. And then as we take a look at the Kiwi, now Kiwi looked pretty bearish until today. And you can see that since overnight and today, this thing had a nice little rally here. But on the daily chart, you can see this thing is still in a downtrend. So always keep in mind where the velocity is and where the trends are. Velocity doesn't last that long, but the trends definitely do last long. So we're getting a nice little price action in the Kiwi today. But the big question is that, do I jump in full or follow through? I mean, based on this chart pattern here, I mean, we need to break above this previous high to really break above that trend. But until then, this thing kind of, is this an opportunity to sell? I think it's the candlestick today is actually really strong here. So one thing I wanted you to take a look at was the Aussie Kiwi. This is the one that I was paying close attention to going into this week. And as you can see that this is the prior resistance, became a support. It did pierce through that level, but it's kind of found some support right there. So at this point, I mean, you can see Aussie looks a little bit more weaker compared to the Kiwi, but at the same time, it's just holding on to that level here. So if this Aussie Kiwi breaks below this level, again, I like this as a trade too, as a chart. I think this can easily get towards that 108.40 area, but I need to get a confirmation. But based on these little wicks that we're getting here, we might go consolidate a little bit here on this one as well. So you can see that there's a lot of things that are kind of moving. Now the question is, okay, what do we look at in the next 24 to 48 hours? First thing is what we're going to look at is the euro. And I know we have the ECB rate statement. So the question is euro showing any divergence or strength or weakness against anything? So here's the euro Swiss franc. I mean, you can see euro is doing a little bit better right now. Let's take a look at euro against the pound. And you can see that this thing is also. So again, euro has been sideways. I think it's getting a nice little rally here. But the big question really is it going to break above that previous high, or is it going to stay range bound here? So I think we'll have to kind of wait and see till tomorrow. But I think a lot of the good price action is already kind of priced in here. So we'll see if we do break one way or the other. Otherwise, I think we can trade within that range as well. All right, let me go through some of the other setups. Dollar yen is the one that I know we are looking at. As you can see, this thing is also now getting towards this mid-range here. So this is the upper end of the range, and this is the bottom end of the range. And we are right smack in the middle here. So I think this could go either way. But I mean, take a look at the last few days. We had seen a nice correction from 149 all the way down to 146. If this breaks below that 146, I think then it's likely to move towards that 143 area. If it holds this level and try to rebound, maybe that will be the new support here. So I think it's right there in the middle. It's hard to make that call. I think it's a pretty much a 50-50 here. It could go either way. Another setup that I like today. We're looking at setups. We look at the currency baskets. Remember I talked about Kiwi CAD. Kiwi CAD had a nice break, and then it did made a little bit of low and rallied all the way to this 20 to 50 moving average. Now the question is this a right level to short into? A lot of times, shorting these little rallies can be a good entry point for these trades. I think I'm just waiting for this, if this does roll over or does it break out above it. But again, I think that's the one that I kind of liked and interesting here. But overall, you can see that this is again back in that range here. So not a whole lot of divergence here. Can we find opportunity in dollar CAD? Dollar CAD is just bouncing off the support here. So the big question really is is the dollar going to be the weaker currency in the next 24 to 48 hours? You can see that this thing had a big correction, but until it really breaks that support, I think it could find some short-term support here as well. So from a technical standpoint, don't really love the price action here. A lot of the movements are happening on a day-to-day basis, but as far as the direction goes, we have definitely a lot of ranges to kind of go through. With the Swiss franc looks the best, but then it's in a range. It's actually pulling back here, so we'll see if this actually breaks below this level here. Euro actually looks fine, but at the same time, it's not really breaking higher or lower. I don't love the pound here because of this back and forth here. So maybe, again, this is the time to be a little bit more cautious and lighter on your positions until something comes up that would be more convincing. I think it's a bit of a tough call here. Dollar looked clear to me, but then here we are getting a big rally or big drop here. And again, earlier I had some questions where somebody says, hey, maybe should we buy this dip on the dollar? Well, compared to what we saw last week where, those dips were pretty short-lived, this thing is not really catching a bounce. As you can actually see that even as you go on a 4-hour chart, you'll see where it had a bear rally right here. It broke lower, and pretty much there's no buying whatsoever. So I think dollar right now kind of looks a little bit weaker to me as well. But as far as the continuity goes, I think we could get a little bit more sideways before it really breaks out one way or the other. So yeah, don't have a whole lot of setups that I'm personally looking at or like it based on the risk to reward. The thing is, this is just one of those weeks where, unless you're trading the news, but it's just better to be on the sideline because of that choppy price action. Another thing that I did notice early today, the Kiwi Swiss franc had a very nice move today. So Swiss franc did pull back. So the question is the Swiss franc ready to sort of pull back further? And again, if that's a trend or that's a change, we are making a little bit of a newer high here. But remember, this thing is also in a very strong downtrend. So we are right up against these moving averages. So if this can get above moving averages, perhaps maybe there's a little bit more room for this to run to 4,900. But the real question is, is that what we expect from the Kiwi? And you can see Kiwi is overall not in an uptrend. It's actually in a downtrend here. So technically speaking, based on this chart, I should be selling these rallies. So if that's the case, then I guess we can take a look at some of the Aussie or some of the Kiwi pairs to kind of short into. I think that's the only thing that kind of looks decent to me here. Again, let me know again if you have any questions. I think a lot of us are on the same page. I know I talked to some of you individually, and the consensus was that not the greatest price action or a lot of news-based movements where it's if it works in your favor, you're already in a position. That's great. But if you get chopped around in these news events, sometimes that could be frustrating too. But I think majority of this is already out of the way. Tomorrow we get those manufacturing PMI numbers, and we'll see what happened with those. But I think for now, we're just seeing a resumption of some of the trends there. The U.S. bond yields are rising. After those news came out, the European bond yields are rising. The question is that, it could the dollar sort of follow the rebound? And again, I think, if we are seeing a correlation, then I would have done that. But you can see that while the markets are recovering, this thing's weak. So I don't love it when, it's not really catching up. So if it's not really playing that correlation, then we don't want to look at that correlation. If this is going to rebound, then we need to see that in the price action. But right now, the chances looks kind of a little grim over here. But yeah, this is the unfortunate one because I like this setup as it was start to make a higher high and a higher low, right here. But then it just broke that level pretty quickly and hasn't really rebounded since then. So that maybe there's some underlying weakness there. All right, so let's just wrap things up over here. Again, focus on the currency in play. When things are looking a little bit more murky or sideways, trade less. There are movements that we can get, but again, not based on the daily chart, because some of the movements that we're getting in the shorter term are the opposite of, like, we are seeing a higher velocity, but then the trends are in the other way. So until the trends have really turned, I think it's better to kind of stick with the overall direction and then, sell those their rallies and buy those pullback. But again, when you're not sure, I think it's better to stay back. So not really looking to do much today, but tomorrow when we get the ISM numbers, I think I'm looking to be more active, especially in those euro currency pairs. So we'll see what the dollar does. And then ECB rate statement is the one that I'll be focusing in tomorrow morning as well. So that's the game plan. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and type in in the Discord. We share charts and setups over there. If anything comes up, just type it over there. I'll be posting things when I see something happening. But again, keep the powder dry when things are not looking the best. I think last week was a great trading week. Last couple of weeks has been pretty good trading week. This week definitely has been a little bit more challenging. John says, how can I tell at a glance if the market is risk on or risk off, specifically for Forex? So again, when we do risk on and risk off, we take a look at broader markets. So we looked at broader markets. They're pretty clear that the broader market trends are on and risk off. Now, when it comes to currencies, sometimes we see a good correlation between risk on and risk off, meaning that when there is a risk on environment, then we start to see the safe haven currencies drop and growth currencies, they go higher. I would say that things have kind of definitely broken down right now as far as the correlation goes, because again, based on that fact, Aussie should have been breaking out. Kiwi should have been breaking out, but they're not. They're sideways. Dollar yen, they're kind of moving back and forth with the negative correlation. And then we have the European currencies that has had a nice run, but then still holding on to the gains. So I think when you're looking at that, you can see what the risk on or risk off is by looking at, if the markets are looking weaker, then is the safe haven currencies going higher? That's the way you can kind of gauge that. But if you're seeing not the same price action, I always find that, don't get tied up with correlation. Follow correlation when it's there. But when it's not there, it's better to just follow the price action. Good question there. Awesome. Again, we'll wrap things up here. Again, if you have any questions, just shoot me a message on Discord. Well, enjoy your rest of the day. We'll talk soon. Cheers.